It is an incredible time. After centuries of being suppressed and systematically erased, African and diasporic spiritual traditions are having this beautiful, powerful resurgence. And the internet, well, it's opened up pathways for millions to reconnect with their ancestral heritage and find some really profound spiritual development. I mean, it is an absolutely incredible time of reclamation. But here's the thing. That same accessibility, that same deep, genuine spiritual hunger, it creates an opening for something much, much darker. The very tools that connect us to authentic knowledge can also allow frauds to make themselves look legitimate. They literally weaponize the sacred itself. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right here.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. The old saying is true. To spot a fake, you've got to know the real deal, inside and out. And this is especially true when we're talking about spiritual practice. So before we can even begin to identify abuse, we need to get a really clear baseline for what authentic, healthy tradition actually looks like.
And what's so fascinating is that even with hundreds of totally distinct traditions across the African continent and the diaspora, they tend to share these core philosophical principles. There's this fundamental idea that reality is interconnected. The spiritual and the physical, they're not separate worlds. And honoring your ancestors, that's not just some nice idea. It's seen as like fundamental spiritual hygiene. And all of this happens within a community, a collective, that's passed down through a real, verifiable lineage. Okay, so a really central concept you'll see in many of these traditions is Ase, or sometimes Ashe. The simplest way to think of it is as the life force. It's that spiritual energy, the power to make things happen, to bring your intention into reality. And this is the crucial part, right? The goal of the spiritual work is to cultivate a say for balance and for harmony within yourself, in your community, in the world, not to gain total domination or absolute control over other people. So how does someone actually gain authority in these traditions? Well, it's not just about being super charismatic or having some wild dream. Real authority is transmitted through a lineage. You can actually trace who taught your teacher and who taught them. That person is accountable to a community of elders and peers. It involves years, often decades, of slow, gradual development. And here's the kicker. The whole point of all of this is to empower you, the seeker, not to make you totally dependent on the leader.
Okay, so now let's flip the coin and see how all of this can get twisted. Those very same sacred principles, lineage, community, Ase, they can be weaponized. Look, spiritual abuse isn't just random chaos. No, it's methodical. It follows a predictable playbook, an architecture that's designed to take apart a person's defenses by using their own faith against them. In this four-step process, it's the abuser's playbook every time. First, they leverage your genuine belief. That spiritual hunger you have becomes the very tool they use against you. Second, they abuse the authority that you grant them as a spiritual teacher. Third, and this is a huge one, they demand isolation. They systematically start cutting you off from family, from friends, from any outside voice that might challenge what they're saying. And finally, it all escalates gradually, step by tiny step, so you don't even realize how deep you're in until it's way too late.
All right, this is where we get really practical. We've seen the blueprint for how abuse is structured. Now let's look at the specific red flags. Think of this section as your personal toolkit for discernment, giving you concrete, real-world things to watch out for to protect yourself and to protect your community. So the billion-dollar question is, right? When you're in the moment, when you're genuinely seeking guidance and you're looking for community, how in the world can you tell the difference between a real guide and a predator? All right, let's put these side by side. It becomes super clear in an authentic practice. Finances are transparent, they're reasonable, you're paying for someone's time, for materials. But in an exploitative setup, the fees are murky, they keep going up, and suddenly every single conversation uncovers a new, super expensive emergency. An authentic leader guides your autonomy, they want you to be independent, and they're accountable to other elders. An exploiter, they demand total control and answer to absolutely no one. And then there's community. A healthy one supports you and respects your life outside the group. A toxic one demands you cut ties with everybody else. And really, this boils down to the end goal, What's the point of it all? Authentic spiritual practice is all about making you stronger, more capable, more independent. It's about empowerment. Exploitation is the exact opposite. It is designed from the ground up to make you weaker and more dependent on the leader for every little decision, for every bit of validation. Okay, let's talk about the money, because this is a big one. Is the price just way off, like way more than anyone else? Can you even get a straight answer on what things cost? Red flag.
What if the price suddenly shoots up right after you've committed? Or if every single reading, every consultation uncovers some brand new, costly problem that only they can solve? And maybe the biggest tell of all, if you feel this intense pressure to make a huge financial decision right now, that manufactured urgency is a classic manipulation tactic. And the psychological tactics are just as crucial to spot. Think about it. Are they actively trying to get you to pull away from family and friends who just don't get it? Do they demand you obey without question and treat your curiosity as some kind of spiritual weakness? Are they using fear, threats of curses or making the ancestors angry to keep you in line? And finally, do they try to control all information, telling you that every other teacher, every other book, every other website is dangerous or just plain wrong? These are not the signs of a strong leader. These are the signs of a controlling one. So, after hearing all this, what's the big takeaway? You might think it's to be paranoid or cynical, but it's actually the exact opposite. Learning to see these red flags, learning discernment, that's a sacred practice in and of itself. It is how we protect the people inside these traditions, and by doing that, we protect the integrity of the spiritual paths themselves. Here's the hard truth. Abusers thrive when a community cares more about protecting its reputation than it does about protecting the actual people inside of it. They are counting on the fact that people will be too scared to speak up, worried they'll be seen as attacking the tradition. That silence, that's the air that this kind of abuse breathes. And you gotta remember, holding people accountable for their abuse is not an attack on the tradition. It's an act of love for the tradition. It's preservation. It's like cleaning house. It strengthens the community by reinforcing the ethical standards that were supposed to be there all along. You honor the tradition by refusing to let its good name be used to cause harm. So I want to leave you with one final question. A question to ask yourself, to ask your community. When it really comes down to it, when a choice has to be made, is the priority protecting a reputation or protecting the people? The answer to that question tells you everything you need to know.